Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Integrity Restored podcast. I'm Jim O'Day, your host, and I'm blessed to be joined once again by Father Alan Hoffa, my dear friend, my brother in this battle. Been with me since the beginning. And today's episode, we're calling Every Man Needs a Heart. Padre, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jim. I'm really excited about this podcast today and always happy to be with you and to continue the work we do here at Integrity Restored together.
It's an incredible blessing, right? I mean, I've been doing this 10 years. You've been just about 10 years now as well. And never in a million years did I think I would be doing this. But also never in a million years have I had a job that I felt more excited about. And the help
Yeah, we always say between the porn guy and Father Porn, never did we think, that this was going to be the titles that we had in life. But I carry it as a badge of honor now because God's Lineman is my podcast, and when the devil sees me coming, he gets worried because there's a lot trucking in the way of good, especially coming against this evil that he keeps pilfering out there.
It's a big pulling guard I get to follow, and I'm grateful.
You ain't kidding, brother. You ain't kidding.
I'm grateful for that. So, Father, when we're talking about every man needs a heart, it's a catchy saying, but there's a really deep-rooted problem that we need to address as men in today's society, as men in today's culture, and we were talking about St. Valentine. Pick a one. There's two in the church, right? But both were martyrs. Mm-hmm. Both were willing to die for what they believed. And I think today so many men just don't have that heart, that self-giving heart. So talk to us a little bit about what you want to teach us.
There's so many things that I want to say today. You're going to have to keep me focused because I'm gonna get after it. This one is something that is near and dear to me. When I was back in college playing football, I was blessed to be playing at a small D3 school in Reading, actually where I'm assigned now and where I was born and raised. It's crazy how it all comes together. And I remember my coach pulling me aside because usually we would have like a Saturday afternoon game. And then after the game, I'd be heading out to go over to the church to work as a sacristan and actually wound up having a huge impact on my vocation discernment and stuff like that. But he pulled me aside. He says, Hoffa, how is it that you go from being here one point on a Saturday of ripping people's heads off and then you're over at church being all holy? And I said, well, Coach, my mom taught me from the time that I was a young kid, everything has a time and place. So I put my energy into going and being the guy who, has to go and block and keep my quarterback's blind side safe and all that kind of stuff, to then putting my efforts into the work at the church to be able to bring, to do my part of bringing people to God. Everything has its time and place. And I think one of the things over the course of my life was to have really good examples of priests, but also of good men, to be able to develop the fullness of my masculinity. And, I would say that in today, and again, people may disagree with me and, everybody's welcome to their opinion, but I am sick and tired of the terms like toxic masculinity and, actually the emasculating, reality that's happening to men in our culture, especially the bad example of masculinity that is being given and it's being passed down at points. It's either the connection between fathers and sons is either non-existent. It's a poor representation of masculinity.
Yep.
It's a quiet representation of masculinity. And yes, there are some times where there is a very solid example of masculinity that is passed down from generation to generation. But I think that one of the things that over the course of time, and it's interesting, in previous podcasts, we talked about my connection of going back to things like World War II and stuff like that. we talk about things, even within the context of our work at Integrity Restore, like PTSD and stuff like that. And we know that there are different things that have affected men over the course of time where it's caused them to sort of retreat into themselves and to have, a public persona versus their own internal turmoil. And that led into, different concepts of what it meant to be a man. Real men don't cry. Real men don't say the word, I love you. Real men don't say, I'm sorry. This is what it means to be a real man. And what's happened over the course of time is that in emasculating men, we've gotten comfortable as a society for men having either a low grade of emotion or no emotion at all. And I'm like,
the pendulum. Yeah.
Bro, you got it completely wrong. You are completely wrong. Because my emotion, my ability to feel as a human being and as a man is one of my greatest strengths.
Yes.
My empathy, not my apathy, but my empathy is an incredible gift. Now, I'm not saying to do any of this in extremes, like you said, the pendulum. I'm talking about this being balanced. Because if our emotions are balanced, all of our emotions are balanced, then we're able to be the person that God has called us to be. But if they're unbalanced, if we're trying to hide or completely, as you say, I have no emotion, like right. That's the thing. Men who take pride, I'm going to say this is a bold statement, but I'm going to say this out loud. Men who take pride in the fact that they have no emotion are actually not being real men. That I'm going to say that one outright. And bro, like, come at me. I'll take you on about that one all day. If Please. You want to sit there and say that being a real man is having no emotion, you're out of your mind, because all you're doing is you're denying your humanity. Okay, if Jesus Christ, who is the best man that ever walked the face of this earth, could be happy, could be sad, could cry, could laugh, and experience all of the emotions that are part of an integrated human being, if Jesus can do it, why is it so bad for us as men to do it? Why is that so wrong? And it's not wrong. But we've gotten into this place where people think that, you know what, no emotion, it's all good. No, let's talk about integrated emotion, because if your emotions are integrated, if you have what I call emotional competency or emotional literacy, not only about yourself, but about others, especially men, about the opposite sex, now we're going to get somewhere. Because in the communion of persons, especially in the context of marriage, you're actually going to be able to live out what you've been called to as a man, as a husband, as a father, to its fullest. So let's break that down a little bit, okay? So the first thing is understanding my own emotions and being able to not only understand them and feel them, but also to be able to express them in a way that is healthy. So I'm going to be actually speaking as we're recording this, I'm going to be speaking coming up. We have a Holy Smokes group here in the diocese. So a bunch of guys getting together, having a beer, having a drink, smoking a cigar. It's a really great time. Maybe we'll have to have you up, Jim, and come and join us for one when you're in the area. But this one that we're doing is called PFA, okay? And it's prevention from anger, or protecting from anger, or, processing the anger that we have, as men, because it's an emotion. We feel that. But it's by doing the PFA that we do for Lent, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. And it's using those different things of the church. This is why the church gives us these things, to be able to process our emotions. And think about, over the course of time, how men allow anger to rule their lives. And how badly that turns out oftentimes, just poor decisions made. Or that they have repressed anger, because again, I don't care if you're an extrovert, introvert, you feel anger. Everybody feels anger. It's a natural human emotion. How you deal with it is different, introvert, extrovert. But how many times has people hurt other people by their actions, by their words, by their thoughts, when they've been angry, or not hurting only other people, but hurting themselves. We
Right.
we go for all the way to the extent of things like suicide, or how it backlashes in things like depression, anxiety, panic disorders. Again, we get into those things, PTSD, all that stuff. That is not healthy. We need to process our emotions, and finding the words to be able to put out there, whether it be with one trusted person, not stigmatizing things like mental health, to be able to talk to one's spouse when it's a small problem versus a big problem and it doesn't end in a blow up, and then we get into the work that we do at Integrity Restored, because how many guys, when they go and they can't process their emotions, an emotion like anger, and they need some type of release for it, what are they doing? They're turning to porn and masturbation. Why? Because they don't have a healthy outlet, whether it's physical exercise, whether it's being able to talk to someone, whatever those healthy things are, they're turning to something that is completely unhealthy and that is harmful to them. So we have, on one hand, emotional competency for the sake of the man himself. Now there comes emotional competency literacy for the sake of one's spouse, okay, or one's children. And this is where we get into more of a greater societal issue that women do better with, but sometimes they fail in this too, but men are definitely worse at. Is that when I look at the emotional need of someone else, I don't look at their emotional need and the solve for it through my own eyes of how I would want that need to be solved, but through theirs. How do they need me to step up as a man, as a father, as a husband, and respond to their need in the way that they need it? And this is oftentimes one of the big things, in marriage counseling, and in dealing with family issues, whether it is in the marriage or with the children, whatever, that I find a lot of the issue. It's people go and they project, well, this is how I would want this emotional need to be met. Well, guess what? This part of the conversation, my friend, ain't about you. Okay? We want to help you on the emotional side and your emotional need when it comes to you, and it should be balanced, and people should be taking care of you and your emotional need. You know what? Advocate for yourself and let people know how they can help you. But when you step up as a man to go and help someone else, guess what you need to do? You need to go and take time to understand that person and what their need is, and then to come to that need on their side. And oftentimes, this whole thing, when we talk about, betrayal trauma, and again, not to be stereotypical here, but a lot of times when we're dealing with betrayal trauma, it's the husband is the user of the pornography, the wife finds out, and she is the one who is harmed, and she feels that sense of betrayal. How often do these men try to manipulate these women because they're coming at it, well, I'm fine with it now, so she should be fine with it. Bro, wake up. You are looking at it from your perspective, and that's pretty damn selfish. You got yourself into this place from selfishness, and now you're trying to get yourself out of it by selfishness, by trying to be dismissive of your wife's emotions. You can't do it. You have to see where she is with all of this and understand, and sometimes that means that we have to take the beating for the stuff that we did that was wrong. And that's okay, because we have to do that, and we have to step up, and that sacrificial nature of masculinity definitely is able to, or helps us to be able to become those men that we were able to be, that we weren't willing to be when we got ourselves into the trouble in the first place. But I think even beyond that, even if a man is not engaged in pornography, masturbation, things that are offenses against one's spouse, I think the other part too is just in understanding, what is the need of the person that I love, and how do I meet that person's need on a very deep level of intimacy. And I've always loved that breakdown of the word intimacy. It was I would say, out of all of the things when I was in pastoral counseling in the seminary, it's one of the biggest things that I've used over and over again throughout my priesthood, the breakdown of intimacy, into me see. The ability that I have to let someone see into me, and that they in turn allow me to see into them, and that I want to see into them down to the core of their heart and their soul. That's what intimacy with Christ is. So often the word intimacy in the world in which we live is treated as a dirty word because intimacy means sex. No. Intimacy does not mean sex. That's physical intimacy. That's one form. But we have to be able to see the greater form of intimacy is emotional depth, in which we are placing our emotions in their properly ordered way and using the full span of them so that when we are angry, it turns into a justice. And we use that energy in a positive way to affect change. When we're sad, when we're upset, that we again don't pack it down, pack it in, but that we actually express it in ways that are healthy and that we move on. I have many different relationships with men in my life, brother priests, men that I have been friends with since childhood, men that I've come to know in my priesthood and are friends. And there is a wide range of emotion. But I can see in the challenges that the ones who are emotionally stunted, why their relationships suffer is because they don't have that emotional integration. And it bothers me. I say this to people all the time, whether there's men or women. Once they start to well up in the eyes here, or a tear starts to fall down their face, and they immediately say, "I'm sorry." For what? Being human? Go, and if you got to let it out, dude, let it out. And I will see that the men who have that integration, that hey, when I'm feeling joy, I cry. When I'm feeling sad, when I'm scared, I cry. And I let people see that. Listen, that actually is a great thing, because we give people permission. We give the next generation permission. We give those around us permission. We give other men permission to actually be well integrated in their emotions. So again, number one, Jesus is always our example for masculinity. He had well integrated emotions. So you want to be like Jesus. Again, emotional integration. Two, the benefit of emotional integration is not only for yourself, but it's for those around you. And it's a healthy thing for you to have that emotional integration, that emotional competency and literacy, but also to have it for the sake of the other person, so that they know what's going on inside of you, so that you can reach that level of intimacy, but that you're also seeing their emotion and giving them what they need on account of how they need it, not how you would give it to them. And making sure that we're doing this in such a way that we're not actually causing harmful backlash on ourselves by suppressing our emotions and then downplaying them to the point that we're making bad decisions, which will lead on to not only this issue of pornography and masturbation that we deal with so much in our work here at Integrity Restored, but even beyond that, the harmful pains that happen in the world around us, that is just with this dissociation from real humanity. The more we can get back to a true integrated humanity that definitely involves our emotions, one of the great parts of our rational human soul that God created in us, when we get back to that, the world's going to be a lot more human, and it's going to be a lot more healthy.
Amen. What a great conversation, Padre. The one thing I wanted to ask is, for many men, this can seem like a really hard thing to do. So, practically speaking, what are 2 or 3 things that a guy can do to start learning, incorporating this concept of recognizing and allowing your emotions in a healthy way?
Yeah. The first thing is practice makes perfect. So it's not something that you can flip a switch on, especially if it's been something that you've sort of been taught, like this is resonating with you and you're like, wow, like I really haven't been taught the right thing. I can see the truth in what Father's saying, so I need to change. Well, you can't just it will actually be more harmful to you to try and do that, because it's going to come out in all kinds of weird or dysfunctional ways, or just disjointed ways. So you got to start small and start building on, okay, first of all, who is my smaller circle of the people that I trust? And maybe you're at that point where you are emotionally integrated with the people that you trust, but now you have to widen that circle. Maybe it's on a level at work. Maybe it's on a level of within the community with my friends. I can't tell you the number of times, my friendships with men that have been emotionally grounded have opened their eyes to what real relationship and friendship looks like, that they're like, wow, I've been living empty friendships with other men for a long, long time. And now, like, I can walk up to another man who my heart is connected to, and I've known that my entire life, but I can say to him, I love you.
Right.
And not in a way that, incites some type of, same-sex attraction or something like that, but in a way that is authentic love that I have for another human being and express that in a genuine way to them. Like, those are the types of things that when we look at the little opportunities and that we're building up the courage, and a lot of it is the why behind, like, why do I want to do this? Why do I want to reach out, in this way emotionally? Well, here's the thing. It's healthy for me.
Yep.
And in the same way that, if we were doing things that were unhealthy for us, we could either choose to ignore the doctor's orders or we could choose to listen to the doctor's orders. Well, who is the doctor that we need when it comes to our emotional unhealthiness? There's a couple different things. It could be a clinician, and that's why we're so blessed at Integrity Restored to work with great clinicians like Dr. Pete Kloponis and his crew at Integrity Counseling Services. And you and I have been blessed to know clinicians from all over the country who are on point with, especially working with men with emotional integration and literacy. But all the way down to, again, your parish priest. Again, we're supposed to be the guys who, went to the seminary and studied this guy named Jesus and are called to be Jesus. And so if a guy is struggling and he says, Father, I want to be more like Jesus, well, what does that look like? And one of the big pieces is not just being able to quote scripture and quote theology, but also just being a good, integrated, emotionally integrated human being. And so the clergy is there to be able to help. And having that dialogue of I want to. I always say that self-advocacy is not about having all the answers. It's about willing to turn the doorknob and walk through the door and take the first step and seeing on the other side of that door all of the opportunity that's available to you. And I think that that's a big part of this. It's a huge part of it. When you advocate for yourself, even in just having that conversation with someone you trust, like your spouse, which it should be. No man should be in a relationship with his spouse where he couldn't go up to her and say, honey, I need you to help me to be more emotionally aware of myself. And I also want to be more emotionally aware of you and what you need. Now, for some of the guys out there, she might think that you were taken over by an alien or something like that because it's been so long or it was never there. And then you could say, well, I was listening to this guy, Father Hoffa, and this guy, Jim O'Day, and they told me that I should do this. So ladies, pray for us. But the other side of it is that, again, give it time. And do not expect immediate gratification. Do not expect immediate response. It takes time. And that I think also goes to the gratification thing. What's the purpose? It's for your best self, and it's for the other person's best self, and it's for the deepening of intimacy. And anything that is worth doing takes time. So be patient with you, be patient with others, because God is patient with you, God is patient with others, and God has that feeling heart for you. Have that feeling heart for him, for yourself, and for those around you.
Amen, brother. That's beautiful, beautiful conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thanks for joining us. If this program or any of our products and services have helped you in any way, please consider coming alongside and supporting this ministry. We exist solely on the goodwill and support of friends like yourself. If you can make a donation today, please visit integrityrestored.com/donate and join us in this important work. May God bless your journey.